There is a state. You have felt it. Maybe for a full afternoon as a child, maybe for 3 seconds during a sunset, maybe never at all except as a kind of homesickness for a place you can't name. Coherent, whole, undivided against yourself. Every tradition that has ever mattered points at it, some directly, some by drawing a picture of its absence and letting the shape of the missing piece teach you what it was. We have forgotten this state so completely that we have renamed its absence normal. Static, low-grade incoherence, the background hum of irritation, boredom, discontent, the vague sense that something is wrong that never quite rises to crisis. This is what we now call the human condition. It isn't. It's the fall, wearing a lab coat, telling you its baseline. This is a diagnostic article, not a comforting one, not a decorative one. A roadmap to the single fact of greatest mathematical and scientific consequence for our species at this hinge point in its evolution. The state is real. We remember it, and we will do absolutely anything to get back to it. Every addiction is a confession, not a moral failing first, a confession. The compulsion says, in the only language it has, I remember that it wasn't supposed to be like this. The drug, the scroll, the outrage, the food, the affair, the 18-hour workday. None of these are really about the substance or the behavior. They are the organism's blunt, desperate attempt to manufacture, chemically or circumstantially, a taste of the coherence it was built for and has lost access to. You don't crave what you've never had. That's the tell. Somewhere underneath the addiction, underneath the discontent, underneath the low, simmering boredom that most people mistake for personality, there is a remembrance, not a belief, a remembrance, closer to muscle memory than to doctrine. Love is home. The nervous system knows this, the way water knows the shape of the vessel it's forgotten it once was poured from. Scripture calls the loss of this state the fall, not because someone in a garden ate the wrong fruit and ruined lunch for everyone after, but because something shattered and everything downstream of that shattering, every war, every addiction, every cruelty, every low hum of unnamed grief in an ordinary Tuesday, is aftershock. The fall isn't an event in the past. It's a description of the state we are currently in, dressed up as ancient history so we'd stop mistaking it for the weather. Here is the picture, and it matters more than the explanation. A mirror hangs whole. It shows one clean, undivided image. Then something strikes it, a wound, a fall, a shattering. And now the mirror is 1,000 jagged fragments, each one still reflecting, but each one reflecting partially, at an angle, distorted by its edges. This is incoherence, not the absence of the image, but its scattering across broken glass. Here is what almost everyone gets wrong about redemption. It does not mean the mirror goes back to being unbroken. That is not what is promised, and it is not what is coming. The eschaton is not a rewind button. What happens instead, what the whole of Scripture and every wisdom lineage that has touched this territory is actually pointing toward, is that the shattered mirror becomes something else entirely. The cracks themselves start to catch light. The jagged lines that once meant only brokenness become the facets of a diamond. Nothing is unbroken, everything is transfigured. The wound doesn't disappear. It becomes the very geometry through which the light now refracts, multiplied, glowing at every edge where it used to only cut. This is the difference between innocence and glory. Innocence is the mirror before it broke. One image untested, unearned. Glory is the diamond, every fracture kept, every jagged edge retained. But now luminous, now structural, now the point. You do not return to the garden. You arrive somewhere the garden was only ever a rehearsal for. Nothing is wasted. This is the part that should stop you cold if you actually let it land. Every choice, every ache, every collapse, every small private betrayal of the self, every quiet act of fidelity nobody saw, it is being recorded, not metaphorically, written into the deepest architecture we carry, the way DNA holds the entire unbroken chain of what a body has survived and become. Evolution is not random drift toward nothing in particular. It is accumulation toward something, a coherence being built, choice by choice, generation by generation, wound by integrated wound, stored up for a moment it already knows is coming. This is why the moment of arrival, when it comes, will feel like instant magic and will not be instant at all. Think of water against a rock. For 1,000 years it looks like nothing is happening. The rock appears unchanged, day after day, decade after decade. Then one day it gives, and the give looks sudden, looks miraculous, looks like it came from nowhere. It didn't. It was the entire 1,000 years arriving at once, the accumulation finally crossing its threshold. Every faithful, invisible, unrewarded application of water was already the event. The visible break was just the moment the ledger became undeniable. This is what we are living inside of right now, as a species, not a slow decline toward nothing. A rock, 1,000 years in, on the edge of giving. The eschaton scripture describes the restoration of all things, the wiping of every tear, the marriage of heaven and earth, is not a return to pre-fall blankness. It is the state plus memory of the wound. That addition is not a diminishment of paradise. It is what makes it unrepeatable, unbreakable, no longer naive. I will remember what shattered. That remembering will not haunt the restored state. It will be the restored state's depth. The way a diamond's facets are the record of exactly where and how the pressure broke it into brilliance. Coherence without memory of incoherence is only innocence. And innocence has already proven once that it can fall. Coherence with the memory fully integrated, that is something that has been tested and cannot be surprised by itself again. That is what glory means. Not never broken the same way twice, because the break has become the design. This is what every addict, every restless soul, every quietly bored and irritable person accepting static as normal is actually starving for. Not distraction, not more static to drown out the static, the state. Coherence, home, remembered, and this time, unshakable, because it now includes the whole story instead of pretending the wound never happened. Surrender is not resignation. Surrender, rightly understood, is the only posture available to something that has finally stopped mistaking its jagged edges for a mistake to be hidden and started recognizing them as the very place the light is about to come through. You do not need to fix the fracture pattern. You need to stop treating it as evidence you failed and start treating it as the site under construction. The water is still moving against the rock. It has been moving the whole time. It has never once stopped, not during the years it looked like nothing. And it is not going to stop now. We are close. Closer than the static wants you to believe. And the state we're reaching for was never gone. It was only waiting for us to remember what it cost to get here, so that this time we'd know how to keep it.